Okay. Hello, and welcome to our webinar Wednesday, everybody. My name is Sebastian Petri. I'm Biozyme's CEO, and we are very proud that so many people, customers, and curious scientists join our webinar today. Thanks a lot. The aim of Biozyme webinars is to transport new and exciting information about laboratory. Today, we will share some comprehensive information about biobanking, in particular about 2D barcode scanners and sample management in biobanking. And I'm very happy. So I did product management for Biozyme's biobanking products on my own for some time. And therefore, I'm very happy that to have Avesh Anderson from Ziath here for today's webinar. So from my perspective, Ziath is a true innovation and competence leader for 2D barcode scanners and related products. Ziath has the whole value chain, so development, production in their own hands. And they also offer a very high flexibility for customization, scanner integration into database systems, and Biozyme is really proud to be Ziath's distribution partner in Germany and Austria. So at the end of the session, we will have about 5 minutes for discussion. So if any kind of question comes up, please type your questions into the chat function of the system whenever you like. And at the end, we will pick some questions and I will read them and Avesh will just answer them. So Avesh, please go ahead and give us give us an insight into sample management and your excellent barcode scanners.
Okay, thank you very much, Sebastian, and thank you to Biozyme for inviting me to do this presentation. So first of all, good morning to you all. My name is Avesh Anderson, and I am Product Line Manager at Ziath Limited. We're based in Cambridge, UK, and we've been manufacturing and selling 2D barcode readers since around 2006. We have an extremely close relationship with Biozyme and have worked with them as a partner for many years now. We are actually the only company that manufacture and sell our own range of 2D barcoded scanners. And we also develop hardware products, and we write our own software for the interpretation and processing of 2D barcoded data. Our customers are quite varied, such as university departments, pharmaceutical companies, to large system integrators. So before we get into a few solutions, what is sample management? Sample management is the selecting, collecting, storage, and retrieval of samples and their inherent data. It is a fundamental part of quality control in the laboratory, and if overlooked, can have costly and time-consuming repercussions. Actually, until the 1970s, most laboratory samples were manually handled and managed. I'm sure some of the older members have seen many situations like this. They were identified with handwritten labels and physically recorded in logbooks. This was a clearly flawed system, as it was riddled with transcription errors and mismanagement, and subsequently encouraged the development of streamlined laboratory systems, which you'll probably all know as LIMS. And with the advancement of computers and the internet, sample management could take place anywhere in the world and was no longer restricted to the confines of the laboratory. To define the modern day LIMS is difficult because of the variety of laboratory operations that are performed. These days, LIMS must be dynamic and adaptable, as the needs of laboratories are always evolving. However, any system that aims to streamline laboratory workflows by overseeing the management of its samples can be described as a LIMS system. Modern sample management systems include tailored software and hardware that allow sample data to be accumulated and analyzed. These systems can involve the automation of processes and integration of laboratory instruments, enabling the tracking of sample data from all areas of the laboratory, with the data subsequently being incorporated into electronic and laboratory notebooks. So why is effective sample management important? Sample management sets the precedent for the entire workflow of the laboratory. The validity and reliability of the research is dependent on the integrity of the samples involved. Without precise and careful sample collection, recording and storage, confidence in the data can also be compromised. So with these handwritten labels and physically recording logging sample information, this can lead to loss of irreplaceable samples and samples becoming mixed up or data from samples becoming untraceable. The key benefit of a LIMS is that it reduces human error and lessens the chance of samples being compromised. Barcode labels and scanners reduce the time taken to input sample IDs and increase the accuracy of information entry. The data recorded within a LIMS can also be backed up in a database, and the sample information can be accessible in many locations, eliminating the possibility of losing an entire sample database. So by utilizing a LIMS system, it's possible to locate a sample and know it if it's been tampered with, avoiding costly repeat experiments and improving the overall workflow efficiency. The tracking and tracing of samples can also be improved by integrating single tube and rack scanners to record the movement of samples and tubes throughout the whole laboratory process. This reduces the accidental loss of samples when transferred from a rack to rack, which is actually a common cause of errors, even in modern sample management systems. So if we take a drastic example of poor sample management, a hypothetical case, let's say, if a sample has been incorrectly labeled, and it actually means that this sample is stored under incorrect conditions. So let's say it's a sample that should be stored at -80, it's instead put under cryogenic conditions. This could cause damage to the cap, and the tube's obviously not going to be properly prepared to be under these conditions. This lack of proper seal and under these conditions means that the sample becomes cross-contaminated and unusable. However, in this funny situation, the analyst is unaware of this, so the sample continues to be used in further experiments, which actually cross-contaminates the sample and gives many false positive results for the experiment. And because of the supposed success of the experiment, the sample's used again and again. And eventually, this tube label becomes ineligible. The sample becomes completely lost in the system, and to find the sample again, several cryogenic racks are defrosted, potentially affecting the reliability of these samples. The actual sample that was originally used was never found, and the experiments repeated several times. So as you can see in this example, that can cost any set of users a lot of time and money. So it's always a good case to try and track the samples using barcodes. So there's a few different barcodes that can be used. On the base of tubes, there's 2D, most often it's 2D barcodes, which allows for many samples to be scanned in seconds and allows for many tubes to be tracked and labeled. Although one thing to note at this point is that barcodes on most manufacturers' tubes are actually data matrix barcodes, not QR codes that are seen in many shops and on websites. The reason for this is that many years ago, when barcoding sample tubes was in its infancy, QR codes could not be made small enough to be put onto the base of tubes. Therefore, the data matrix barcode was chosen instead. The compact nature of these data matrix barcodes allowed them to be placed and then read from the tube base. Actually, now there's micro QR codes, which can be that small, but in the tube world, almost all manufacturers still use these data matrix barcodes. And for labeling racks and large other items, linear scanners can be used to scan the barcodes on the side of the racks, which are most often code 1 to 8 barcodes, which are usually the barcodes on food and items and those sorts of things. At Ziath, we've created a whole range of camera-based scanners so that these unique IDs on the base of tubes and on the racks can be scanned as quickly and efficiently as possible. Our latest camera-based 2D barcode scanner, called the Mirage, provides a cost-effective alternative to a traditional flatbed scanner. The Mirage uses innovative technology to give it a low profile, so a low height and compact design. This enables the scanner to be easily used on a laboratory benchtop as well as on the desk of a liquid handling workstation, allowing you to more easily and efficiently scan samples into a LIMS at the point of processing. So the Mirage can scan 24, 48, 96, 240, and also includes a 1DR2 linear attachment for the barcodes on the side of the racks. All our scanners include CMOS cameras, which scan and decode a rack in around 1 to 3 seconds. So they're very quick now, compared to the old flatbed scanners, which would take around 8 to 10 seconds, sometimes even longer. These scan times speed up the workflow, enable the reading of difficult samples, and can cope with overhead lighting and even strong ambient light. Another option for scanning 2D barcoded tubes we have is called the Cube. This is our most versatile scanner, as just by changing the mask, both SPS format racks and cryobox racks can be scanned. By cryobox, I mean 81, 100, 196. And you can see a picture of the cryobox in the top image and an SPS rack in the bottom. And that's both scanned with the Cube. Also, interestingly, the Mirage Cube and the Express, which I'll come into in the next slide, require no setup whatsoever. They arrive pre-calibrated and ready to go out the box. So this can reduce service costs, lower the cost of ownerships, and even extend the lifetime. Actually, it takes probably around 5 minutes to install the scanner. Once this installation CD is received, it's a simple case of just installing the driver and the software, and then the scanner is pretty much ready to go. Also, the scanners include a patented LED illumination system and optics, which allows reading of a single tube in a bright environment. So the scanners will always read the tubes you have, whatever the type and the quantity within the rack, and even difficulty or badly made tubes. And I'll come on to difficulty or badly made tubes towards the end of the presentation. So we also have a scanner called the Express, which is ideal for integration. It has the smallest footprint on the market, so it's perfect for integration with those large automated systems, such as the TCANs, the Hamiltons, the Beckmans. That's because it has an imaging unit, which you can see in the picture, and a separate controller unit, which can go underneath the deck of the robot. It comes with a USB or RJ45 connector as well, and it's capable of scanning all SPS format racks. So this one includes 384 microplates as well. All our scanners also include a passive cryoprotection options for scanning racks straight from the freezer. The cryoprotection is a special coating, a special film on the coating of the scanner, so that racks can be taken straight from cold storage, even from LN2, and there'll be no fogging of the scanner window. The cryoprotection is passive, so no heat or air are injected into the samples when scanning the frozen racks, which protects the delicate samples from danger of accidental quick thawing. There are also a variety of export options, which include Excel, CSV, text, XML, JSON, and even database. So I've mentioned a little bit about tracking the linear barcodes. We have a linear reader called the 1DR2 and a separate attachment which goes with all of our barcodes scanner range. This linear barcode reader can read code 128, but it can also actually even read the data matrix barcodes on the side of the racks, which some of the newer thermo racks also include. At Ziath, we also have a fully portable scanner known as the Handheld, which can be held and operated in one hand, leaving the other tube free for tube handling. The device is fully compatible with all tubes. It's actually portable, independent, and it's even compact, so that no external computer or tablet is needed. Cryoprotection comes as standard with this, allowing tubes to be scanned at the basement, at the freezer, a liquid nitrogen tank, or even out in the field acquiring samples. The device can be paired with our 1D linear barcode opticon to allow scanning of both the 1D and the 2D barcoded tubes. And the device has a long battery life of up to 1 week of one single charge. So it has the handheld device has a few interesting modes. It actually has 5 modes in the standard version. It has just a normal barcode scanning mode called the simple scan, where a list of barcodes can simply be scanned and then connected back to the computer. It also has scan and display data, so the handheld can be connected and Excel files can be transferred to the handheld, and then tubes within your sample inventory system can then be scanned, like in the picture, which can be seen in the picture, and the sample information can be One of the features is the pick listing, where an associated client can be used, and tubes can be scanned, and the handheld device can ensure that the correct tubes can be taken. So rather in the old way of writing a handwritten list of tubes that may need to be collected in their positions, all this data can be shown on the handheld. So all that's needed is the file to be transferred to the handheld, and it can be taken down to the freezer for the pick list. And even new sample information can even be added with the add and edit data information. And it has one other feature, the wired keyboard wedge, where a barcode can be scanned with the device, and via the micro USB cable can be transmitted into an open application. So that can be a notepad, an Excel file, a Word document, or even straight into a LIMS system. There's even 4 additional optional extras to the handhelds. One of them is a wireless keyboard wedge. So the function I just described, where with the cable a barcode can be transmitted, a barcode can be transmitted wirelessly. So it doesn't even need to be plugged in. It just needs to be connected to the network, and it will transmit to an open application on the computer. The handheld can also even link to an open Excel file that's open on screen and display the sample information on the handheld device. It can even link to our own sample software, which I'll come to onto the next slide, and I'll even show a little bit about the sample software at the end of the presentation. But when it's linked with the handheld, a tube within our sample inventory system can be scanned on the handheld, and this information can be displayed anywhere on site. The handheld can even be linked to a database, and sample information can be displayed on screen if it's within the database. So we actually have our own inventory system, so a basic LIMS system called Samples. The main idea we have when we created this software around 10 years ago is to make it extremely simple to use and low cost, where the next step up in the market is around 2 or 3 times more expensive. The system works with a low-cost perpetual license, and the software links with all of our products. So you can track exactly where a sample is stored, as well as its tracking information. We can also customize the software to your requirements. For example, the software can be linked with a TTP Arctic freezer, so that when samples are added or removed from the Arctic system, Samples automatically detects this and updates the database. Another example of a customization would be entry of sample batches. As well as storing specific samples, many users want to track reagents or batches of identical samples. An add-on function for Samples makes this quick and easy. The samples can track the individual tubes within the batch and the number of tubes are in the remaining batch. And like I said, when I finish the presentation, I'll go into Samples and give a brief run through of some of its features. So that's a few of the solutions that we offer. So now I'd like to just run through in the last few slides a few barcoding tips and a few tips that might help you all when working in the laboratory. So quite a common situation is when you remove a rack from a freezer, that the rack is completely covered in ice, like can be seen in the picture, especially when removing racks from LN2. This can make it difficult for any barcode scanner to scan these racks. So we recommend something called the sponge and alcohol technique. This doesn't need to be anything fancy or a specific product needs to be bought from anywhere. All that needs to be purchased is simply just a sponge and some alcohol. And like can be seen in the bottom picture, the sponge can be coated with the alcohol and the rack can just be pressed firmly onto the sponge. This will remove the residual layer of the ice so that the barcode scanner can successfully scan the rack. So like I also mentioned before, we have the cryoprotection on our scanners so that the racks can be scanned as long as the residual ice has been removed. And you'll have to do this with any barcode scanner. As long as the residual ice is removed, it can now be scanned with the scanner with the cryoprotection feature. So it can still be scanned straight from LM2 or from -80, etc. Another common 2D barcode scanning problem is with contrast. So white on black or black on white gives the best color contrast, like that can be seen in the good column. And this is probably the most commonly seen contrast, like you see in many shops, on many barcode labels. But even in the tube world, there are some very unusual variations, which aren't great at achieving a quick and easy scan. So we've actually seen light on gray on silver, and even black on a clear tube. To give a specific example, some of you may have heard of some of the old Nunk racks. They produced a black barcode on a gray background. So this wasn't so easy for the barcode scanners to read, but there are some templates, etc., that can assist with some of these more difficult barcodes. But as we develop all our own software in-house, and all our own products in-house, we're constantly working on our barcode algorithm to make these more difficult barcodes more easy to scan. The next one I'd like to discuss is tubes placed in incompatible racks. So 2D barcoded tubes come in all shapes and sizes. Manufacturers may not always provide the racks. Sometimes tubes will have to be purchased from one manufacturer and the racks from another. And what happens from this is that the tubes are placed in incompatible racks. So some tubes can be higher, they may not fit quite correctly, and this can cause some slight difficulties when scanning. So the main thing to ensure is that the holes are wide enough and the distance isn't too far from the barcode scanner itself. Another common 2D barcode scanning problem is the barcodes printed too close to the tube edge. So all barcodes require a surrounding black space called a quiet zone. If the barcodes is overlapping over the edge of the barcode, it might not even scan at all. And sometimes tube manufacturers can actually do this. So there always needs to be a space of two modules, two black and white pixels, so that the whole rack readers can scan these racks. Barcodes printed near the edge of the tube can impinge on this white space. So it's always good to check that the manufacturer places the barcodes on the base of their tubes in a good position as well. So thank you for your time today listening so far. If we have some time, just a couple of minutes, I'll quickly move on to the samples software before we take some questions. So I think we'll come back to the slide in a moment. Just say thank you, and thank I very much appreciate all your time and for listening.
Okay, so I would say maybe just continue and show us a short introduction into samples to see how simple, easy sample management can be done.
Okay, sure. Bear with me a second. So if you could just confirm you're seeing my sample screen there. I assume the sample software is coming up on screen at the moment?
Yeah, it works. I see it.
Perfect. Perfect. So this is our sample inventory system called Samples. So as I said, it's a low-cost, very simple to use software. We're kind of trying to make it so it's where is the sample, whose is it, and easy to move the samples around. So what you can all see on screen here is a list of racks, but the software calls them containers. So we can actually look inside the rack. And actually see, sorry, let me just change around something in the user management second. Sample types, which I'll explain in a second. Yeah, so we can look inside the racks and we can see individual samples and their tube positions as well. We can see individual tracking information for the samples as well. Just to be clear, all this sample information is completely customizable and changeable. So if you're currently storing within Excel or even handwritten logbooks, this sample information will be currently what you're currently storing. So it's all customizable and changeable. If I click on another rack, I can click and see inside that rack and see some of the sample information stored inside there as well. On the right-hand side, I can see parent and child information and an individual audit trail for the sample as well. The sample software also enables information for where the container or rack is stored as well. For example, what shelf it's stored in, the room, the cabinet, the building, the freezer. And all this information is customizable and changeable too. So just to show you in the tracking tags, these can all be changed and edited based off the sample information that is stored. The sample software is integrated with our barcode scanners, so you can scan the racks and the unique IDs of the barcoded tubes in as well. There's also sample types feature where you can add in different sample types. So I've got liquid and powder here, but you could have blood, DNA, RNA, etc. And there's even a search feature. So all the samples are all searchable based off the tracking tags. And there's also a user management feature. And what I went into before is that the user management and can be restricted to only show specific sample types for the user. So sensitive data can be concealed from specific users. So you can give a user full admin rights, the ability to edit tracking tags, sample types, etc. And there's even a whole audit trail for the software as well. And also there's the ability to import and export sample information. So you can, so if your information is currently stored within Excel files, you can very quickly and easily import all of the sample information that you currently have into the samples software. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I know that's a very brief run through for the software, but you can, as Sebastian knows himself, you can spend 40, even 60 minutes on the software. So I'll kind of leave it there. I just want to say thanks again for everyone for listening to my presentation. And I'm very happy to take any questions from everyone.
Okay, so so thanks a lot, Avish, for this very nice and interesting presentation. Maybe to add some words. So if you are a customer located in Germany or desired product, so a scanner or sample management software, you can just contact us, namely Biozyme, for information, for a demo request or a quote. So please just check our website, biozyme.com, or contact your local Biozyme sales account manager. Okay, so we are now open for questions. Please just type them into the chat box, and I will read them to Avish. So there's one question. Good morning. Is there a possibility to scan a 100 box with vials that have a barcode in the lid?
By in the lid, I assume you mean something we call the orientation barcode. So an additional barcode, which is also the barcode on the side of the rack. So if you do mean that barcode, then yes, there is. So our software adds the ability, so we call that on the SBS rack, some people call that the 97th barcode. So obviously if it's 100 cryo rack, it will be the 101th barcode. But yes, it doesn't matter where that barcode is as well. Our software will automatically identify where this additional barcode is. But yes, that's not a problem, and you can track that within our sample software or within the barcode scanning software.
Yeah, and maybe some addition from my side, if you would mean with lid the screw the screw top of a tube. So even if the barcode would be on the top of the tube, a customization is possible to read such a rack also. Second question goes. Okay, so I just see in the chat function, yeah. So yes, that's possible. There is some customization needed, but Ziath and us have already realized that for a customer who has their barcodes on the top of the tube, to generate a special template and enable reading of that. So that's possible. Another question that goes a bit into the same direction is, is it possible if I have an unusual tube and rack format, namely in that special case Alflex TSU, or is it possible to generate a special template or customization to read those tubes?
Yes, it is. Thank you for the question. Yes, with less commonly used tubes, we can create special custom templates. So, for example, the Allflex one's already available. So it's a simple case of contacting Biozyme, and they can send you over commonly used tubes can be used. If ever there's say a custom rack, for example, say a rack's appeared from China that's not one of the 20 commonly used tube manufacturers, we can even scan those racks as well. You can either send us a rack of tubes, or you can send us a scan of the tubes, and we can create a custom template on the day. Send it back to you, and you'll be able to scan those barcodes into the LIMS system or into your inventory system on that day, basically. So yeah, definitely possible.
Okay. Okay. So there's another question. Is the sample software directly compatible with the Ziath scanners, or do I need some additional interface to connect the scanner with the sample software?
Thank you for the question as well. It is directly compatible. So if a user purchases a scanner as well, the scanning button will automatically be available. The button I briefly showed within the software, that scan button will be available, and then the integration will work automatically. There's nothing additional that needs to be purchased. It will just automatically work. If there's no scanner with the software, then that scanning option won't be available. So there's nothing additional that needs to be purchased.
Okay. And so maybe we continue with the last question and close the session afterwards. So if I need a special output file format from the barcode scanner to have a format that is then compatible with import into a certain LIMS system, for example, is that possible?
Yes, definitely possible as well. Thank you again for this question. output format can be completely varied and changed depending on what you need as a user. So the standard things will kind of be, let's say, row and column and linear barcodes. But all of those, let's say, words or terms are completely editable and customizable. So, for example, one user might prefer to use the term position rather than row and column, and may want to use rack code or something like that. So all of these terms are completely customizable within our software, and we can assist you to make these changes. And these changes are available in any output format. So CSV, text, Word, all the ones I mentioned, completely customizable and changeable to the exact file format that you need to import to your LIMS system.
Okay, so yeah. And also thanks a lot to all people who attended our 2 days webinar. In any case, so if the presentation of the seminar is available to anybody who's interested, and also a recorded version of the seminar will be available on YouTube in a few days. So if you have any colleagues who couldn't join the seminar, there's also then the possibility to have a look at on YouTube. Okay, so thanks a lot, and have a good day. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for listening again.